Hello, good morning, everyone. It's 8:15 here on a central time zone from Minnesota. The sun is not out, it's really dark. I'm trying my best to stay visible. Hope everybody else can hear me and see me fine. I'm really excited to be here on day 2 of the SANS New to Cyber Summit. I'm humbled and honored to be invited here as a keynote speaker. It's also my first time ever keynote speaking, so you know what to do. Prayers up for me, and please bear with me. I just want to thank SANS for this opportunity, you know, for all of the work organizing such summits and talks, you know, to keep aspiring cyber professionals as well as professionals on different levels of the industry to stay updated through, you know, the webcasts, summits, training, etc., and just creating opportunities for new speakers so that, you know, we are able to share our journey and experiences to help inspire others and be inspired from others. Thank you everyone attending the summit today. Yesterday was awesome with all the amazing speakers, you know, with a focus on technical skills, how they translate cyber job functions and how to build those skills. Day 2 brings you another goodness with essential skills such as written and verbal, you know, communication skills, how to build professional network, writing resumes to land that first job, right? I'm really excited to be here and learn from everyone and the amazing lineup that I'm excited to learn from everyone. Let's jump right in and do this keynoting thing, shall we? Okay. As most of you know, there is a lot of noise in this cybersecurity industry. Like we know and we hear that it's a lucrative industry. We also hear there are skill shortages, you know, with 35% of unfilled cybersecurity job openings. We also say we need professionals with diverse perspectives to solve the many sophisticated challenges we continue to face, you know, in the fight against cyber criminals. And there is a challenge with folks on how to break into the industry. And honestly, all of this can be overwhelming. There isn't a definitive one straight path to entry. Everyone has unique ways of how they discover the field, transition and pivoted into the industry. And I'm here to share my journey. What does it look like for Zinet to break into the industry, coming from a totally different background, no exposure to technology or internet, growing up, or even as an adult, coming from a different country and continent, and how, you know, I sort of discovered the field and maybe addressing the question of, you know, how do I break into the industry through my journey, and how I pivoted to the, you know, to find roles aligned with my career goals and how I continue to do so. Through my personal experiences, I hope to help you understand, you know, how to translate your prior experiences and relevant skills to a career in cybersecurity, pivoting to other roles in security, share my successes, challenges, and lessons learned along the way. So who am I? I know AJ did a lot of introduction, but just a quick overview of a little intro about me. My name is Zinet Kamal. I am a wife and a mom of 4 between the ages of 12 and 2 boys and 2 girls. I currently work as an associate cloud security engineer at Best Buy, a Fortune 500 organization. I'm also an immigrant from Ethiopia. A career changer from the legal field to cyber. I started my career in cybersecurity space, working as an IT auditor at a local government, then moved to, you know, state government, working as an information security engineer. Prior to my cyber life, I had a legal career and a law degree before I moved to the US about 9 years ago from Ethiopia, and decided to make a career switch to pursue tech and discover cybersecurity. Fast forward, I now have a bachelor's of science degree in computer science and associate's degree in computer programming. I also have a few security, you know, certs from SANS, Cloud Security Alliance, CISA, CompTIA, AWS, and recently CNCF with the Kubernetes. And recently pursuing a master's degree in cybersecurity at Georgia Tech University, expected to graduate sometime in the future. I don't know. What else? As of last year, I also decided to teach myself how to write a book. So I'm also a bestseller and award-winning self-published children's book author. Titles, Oh No Hacked Again and Proud in Her Hijab. My latest release, Oh No Hacked Again, story about online safety. It's all about teaching kids the importance of online safety while also, sparking interest for young readers, especially girls, to explore the field of cybersecurity as a future career option. My first book, Proud in Her Hijab, published last year, is all about empowering and uplifting girls who choose to wear hijab. That is the headscarf like I am wearing and the lady on that slide is wearing, to be proud of who they are and their identities, while creating awareness for readers, the importance of appreciating diversity, cultural differences, and respecting other people's faith. I'm also on a board with Black Girls in Cyber. Shout out to all the Black Girls in Cyber fam. I recently joined and served in the board as a co-director of the brand and social media. Black Girls in Cyber's mission is to increase industry awareness and diversity in cybersecurity, STEM, and privacy. We listened an awesome talk yesterday from the founder, Talia Parker, on careers in GRC governance, risk, and compliance. Yes, that's a little about me. I think I have an agenda. I have an agenda here to kind of help me, tell my story, from my pre-cyber life, where it all began to my current role and on how I navigated since I, discovering the field. All right. So I'm going to start telling story because I love storytelling and I think it's fun. I was born and raised in Ethiopia, located in East Africa. And no, Africa is not a country. Rather, it's a whole continent, with the 54 different countries. Lived most of my life there. So before I moved to the US from Ethiopia 9 years ago, I had a law degree and a legal career for about 9 years after graduation from law school. I didn't grow up having access to technology or to computers, even all the way in higher institutions. When I moved here in 2013, I knew email, Microsoft Word, Paint, not even Excel. In high school, 12th grade, I remember we have a 45-minute per week computer class. And I tell you, this place is kept as a sacred place where no one is allowed to touch a computer unless you have an explicit instruction from your teacher. And you have to fight to do so when you get a chance, because we are assigned to one desktop to two to three students, because my name is Z, so I always end up getting 4 students assigned to one desktop. And we all know the bossy ones get to click, that mouse. In high school, I have always thought that, I'm not good enough at math. So I sort of self-eliminated myself, from natural sciences, where all the engineering, computer program, or computer science, when you go to the university, the route that you can take to access those programs, and instead chose social sciences route, because I've always thought that I'm bad at math. Therefore, when it's time to go to the university, my parents sort of chose for me what I should study, saying, you will be rich and make us rich if you went to law school. And I said, okay, law school it is then. My mom always has this image and vision where, if you become a judge and somehow people would bring cattle and all kinds of stuff, to the judge's home, and that they are rich and respected within the community. And I'm like, Mom, I'm pretty sure that sounds like bribing the judge. And there is no way that people would bring cattle and stuff to the judge's home for no reason. It's corruption. Yeah, I'm not doing that. That doesn't sound right. But regardless, I went to law school, even competed in 2 moot court competitions representing the university that I went to for law school, nationally and internationally, both in Dakar, Senegal, and Washington, D.C., respectively. After graduation, I worked at an NGO, got married at 21, and chose to take care of my son until he turns 1 year old, because I refused to have him being watched by a nanny, because we were hearing all sorts of crazy stories about nannies. And then went back to, re-entering the workforce a year later. This time, worked for a government investment agency in the legal department. The lesson here, why I'm mentioning here, is that, you could be starting from anywhere, from any background, lacking all the traditional ways of how you should be in the industry. but you can break and you do belong into this industry. That was the reason why I'm mentioning like the background. And so like I mentioned, I lived most of my life in Ethiopia till January of 2013. As you can see in the timeline, I had the opportunity to move to the US through a diversity visa with my almost 3-year-old son, my husband, and myself 7 months pregnant with my second baby. We arrived to a very snowy Minnesota, knowing absolutely no one, looking for a better opportunity and a better life for ourselves and for our growing family. The one person we knew, and the reason why we moved to Minnesota, because we get asked a lot of times why Minnesota of all the states. Minnesota is great. Was an old friend of my husband from high school, where he connected with her on Facebook Messenger about our opportunity, of coming to the States. And she told us, we'll welcome you. And she said she'll show us around for about 4 days only, because she's set to fly back to Ethiopia to visit her family in almost 10 years since she came, as a refugee to the US 10 years back. She hasn't been able to go back to visit her family. And we didn't have an option. So we said, okay, we came here and figured out life mostly on our own, with settling, navigating in a new continent, new weather, literally experiencing snow for the first time, because we don't have snow in Ethiopia, with a toddler and soon with a newborn, through learning and transitions. But how to drive a car for the first time at the age of 27, 28, that's when I learned how to drive. And from all of those things, there were, definitely challenges associated, with the move, settling and transitioning. But I was mostly, excited for the possibilities and what the future holds. And the reason why I'm mentioning this here is that, remain open-minded and stay positive, when venturing for new possibilities. There will be challenges, and embracing the changes and the unknown with an open mind and optimism is very, very important. I have always been, fascinated by technology, regardless of the limited exposure to technology and computers or access to internet that I have mentioned, growing up, or as a matter of fact, up until I came here to the US. A couple of months into our move, and soon after I had my second baby, I thought, I'm in the land of opportunity. I have a chance to start over and make that dream of me choosing what I want to study come true. So I went back to school, began at a local community college that was close to our first bedroom apartment we rented, applied for a computer programming major. I don't know what I was thinking, took a whole placement test, asked the help of the same person who welcomed us. By then, she has already gotten back from her family visit 3.5 months later. She held my baby outside the test room while I was taking the test. I remember I had to leave the test twice to nurse the baby during the test. So fall of 2013, that is the same year that we moved to the US, I started my first full-time semester going back to school. So my goal at that point was, to have a 2-year degree and to become a developer, programmer, or build, websites of some sort. I don't know. So 2 years later, I graduated with an associate's degree in computer programming, not exactly certain what I would do with it. During the study, there were a lot of frustrating moments, of course, with me lacking the background in computing or the math classes, because there are no math classes in law school, I tell you that. And mostly, I had to recall from high school classes, which was a long time ago at that point, about 8 to 9 years. A lot of studying, which also revealed, the fact that I was never really bad at math. In fact, I got all A's in math classes. All the calculus, college algebra, discrete math. There were a lot of math classes that, we had to take in the program. Also dealing with, the intimidation of the classes that I have been doing the program, with almost no one that looked like me being in the classes. Hearing most of my classmates talk about, how they have already done some of these projects in those programming classes, how they've already done those programming projects in high school. and how they have already, are familiar with the concepts and projects. And I can't help but think about, what I was doing back in Ethiopia in high school. It's it was definitely intimidating. There is, that culture shock, adapting and adjusting to the system of education delivery system, etc. There were many moments of frustration, especially with the lack of not having affordable childcare for myself, with my kids, and just the lack of support system at that point. I took all of my classes at night after my husband comes home from all day work. I remember one time, I was cooking. You can see that in that cartoon picture. I was cooking. There is a newborn crying and a jealous toddler. They do get jealous at one point when they find out that the newborn isn't leaving the house, and when they come to that realization that they do get jealous and their behavior change. So and me doing a homework due that same day before class all at once. As a mother of 4 young kids, to this date, multitask, I function, multitasking things, but it can get overwhelming sometimes. So, at that point in time, that moment I was trying to narrate right now is, so I grabbed a clear trash bag and I put all of my textbooks. I remember it was something about HTML, web, operating system, introduction to computer science. I don't remember, but I know that I was taking full-time three classes, all related to, development, computer science, or networking. I put them in that clear trash bag. I tied it, the bag, and put it by the door. And as soon as my husband comes home from work, I went outside and threw it in a dumpster. Problem solved, right? No, my poor husband went outside and brought it back. But there were days of sleepless nights, mostly due to, a newborn, but also studying to catch up, with all the math classes that I was taking. And the lesson here is, don't self-eliminate from opportunities. Don't say no to yourself. We do that to ourselves most of the time. Let's not be the person saying no to ourselves. I thought that I was bad at math, and I eliminated from that opportunity back then. So after graduation, I decided to transfer to a 4-year university to do a computer science degree, as I was still, not sure what to do, although, I was learning a lot. I kept my mind open to keep, pushing, because, with this degree program, sometimes it can be a lot, and you don't know what specific expertise it will give you. And honestly, with all of the different programming languages I was learning and all the deadlines, it's hard to discover where your passion is. And sometimes you wonder, like, how does it become practical in a real world? Like, how do you apply this to a workplace? And I'll say this now, knowing what I know now, it's okay if you still don't know what you will be doing with the degree that you are pursuing. And education is meant to broaden your thinking. And of course, the paper is beneficial for HR. We know that. So mind you, I graduated in spring of 2018 with a bachelor's of degree in computer science, with the university's Outstanding Student Finalist Award. And until the end of 2017, I have not heard of cybersecurity or information security. During senior year, I took this elective class as part of a degree requirement. I think it's called an Introduction to Computer Security class. It was one class, I took it, it's interesting, and I just moved on. So the professor from this Introduction to Computer Security class at one point brought an opportunity for the class, saying, hey, I'm assembling this team where, I'll be coaching a team to represent the university for a cyber defense competition. I had no idea what that was, but sounds interesting. So I managed and started to go to this Saturday afternoon sessions to go through, a ton of information, manuals and cheat sheets, in preparation for self-teaching, which went on for about 4 to 5 months, I believe. The class, which started as a whole class, began to go lower in number of students. coming for that preparation. And it's understandable. Number one, the team of 7 to 8 students are needed or, selected to represent the team. And it's definitely an added commitment on top of, full-time classes for students and other family commitments, such as, caring for kids. Long story short, I made a part of the blue team representing the university in 2018 Minnesota Collegiate Cyber Defense Competition, or CCDC. So what CCDC is, where college students team to compete against a red team of professionals who try to hack and infiltrate student networks. There will be a Windows and Linux sub-teams within that larger team of 7 to 8 students to represent the university. It was a really great experience, and my participation definitely sparked my interest in cybersecurity, just learning about security systems, the team collaboration. That picture is an actual member of the team working on the same team for the same goal, while also working on our respective responsibilities within the team. For me, it was securing and hardening Linux servers, Ubuntu systems. So I had to learn a lot of Unix commands and stuff. So foreign to me, I'm telling you. That was a new and definitely a sacrifice in terms of allocating my time between family and just finding my passion. So our team worked out, on keeping computer systems running from a range of cyber attacks, detecting and defending such attacks. And we were able to secure third place from Minnesota college and universities. And I'll say this, don't be afraid to explore other learning methods in search for what your passion might be. If traditional academic thing or the classes that you're taking isn't doing that while pursuing your education, then explore other methods, such as if there happens to be such opportunities in your school for CCDC or CTF, tap into them at your schools, because that has helped me a lot in finding my passion, at least in security. So meanwhile, towards the end of 2016, while doing my undergrad, I found an IT internship opportunity at a local government. Through that would be, I thought, that would be a great idea to see what the real world looks like, because it has been a while since I was in a workplace setting outside of home and class. I applied and interviewed for this IT internship, joining the organization as an IT intern in a web engagement team to work with managing content, with the organization's public-facing website, supported the team with the creation and maintenance of relevant websites that meet the needs of the organization's audiences. Then after some time, I thought, since I'm in computer science program, it would be a good idea to get some development experience. Then I applied and again interviewed and moved to an enterprise development division, where I had the opportunity to be a part of development of small enterprise applications and learning software development lifecycle and going through change management process in the real world. And I can't stress enough how my internship experience was so important at that point in time, not only with in terms of helping getting the foot in the door, but I had to learn how to be in workspaces, really. I know I used to work back in Ethiopia, but not only learning how to adapt to a new work culture in a whole different, continent, but also just being able to be in spaces where adults are conversing, really, and it's real. I had to unlearn spending my days for years, and moms can relate to this, or dads, with little humans, also known as my 3 young children. And I also had to teach myself, to quiet down myself from singing the many kid songs that I have, ended up being memorizing without my consent. I have to literally quiet down myself from singing The Wheels on the Bus or 5 Little Monkeys Jumping on the Bed, etc. Going to actual serious meetings. And that's some skill that I had to unlearn and learn with those internships. Then as my interest into security world started to shape up, I started looking for spaces within the same organization for security related internships or job shadowing. At that point, what I had was only, my passion, participation maybe in the CCDC competition that I mentioned, definitely no certifications. So while interning there post the CCDC, I was able to study and became certified in CompTIA Network Plus. That was my first certification. And began to study right after for Security Plus. Again, another opportunity of a scholarship that came up for veterans and underrepresented folks within the industry to the university that I was going. So took advantage of that. The time I used to prep for the CCDC was now, allocated to prepping for learning and certifications. Even before the certification, I was able to find an internship within the same organization in IT audit team. Few months before my graduation, I was hired in the same team after 3 months of internship. As you know, this may sound easy, but it took a lot of, intentional, strategic moves, and actually for someone to take a chance on me and seeing my potentials. And I appreciate those leaders, who are willing to see through and make the effort to do so, to see other people's entry-level professionals, because that's what it takes. And that might be, the only thing between an opportunity for both ends. And it was actually another fellow intern, from another team who mentioned my name because he knew my area of interest in cybersecurity to his mentor, which happened to be, he happens to be a team lead in IT audit team. He then reached out and we made for coffee to talk about, my interest, my background, and he then introduced me to his supervisor that same day. I then followed up with, with an informational interview. Yes, I had to Google how to do that and how that is important or why that is important. And soon after that, that's how I joined, that IT auditing intern to be interning into that team, transitioning from enterprise development to IT audit team. So it's important for your goals, to be known to others because you never know who might be mentioning your names in rooms where you aren't around. Just the power of networking, right? Just us, sharing among ourselves our goals and dreams, as an intern, and he happens to share that with someone else. So with my role in IT auditing, I learned a lot about, conducting cybersecurity audits, to validate that controls are in place, adequate and effective based on NIST cybersecurity framework, CIS controls, and also best industry practices. Also learning, about, identifying areas of risk and how to provide, insightful recommendations in terms of, strengthening an organization's cybersecurity processes, policies, governance, and other controls. While working there, I took my Security Plus and CISA Plus just to keep up with my security learning. Not really, super helpful for the IT auditing role. So I also started to study for CISA, the Certified Information Systems Auditor certifications, to learn better into my role, into my IT audit role. I knew that it required experience to earn it, but you can take that certification, pending experience. My goal is just to better learn what an IT auditing it looks like and validating my experience, if I happen to, go to transition to my next role. Also about the same time I took it, I was on my 3rd trimester with my 4th child. Not super fun sitting for a 4-hour exam when you're on a 3rd trimester. Worked with that organization, in that role for about 2 years. Then I moved to, I went out for my maternity leave. Late 2019, I also began my studies into grad school for Masters of Science in Cybersecurity at Georgia Tech. Reason, why not? But really, it was the curiosity of not learning anything about security in my undergrad days, the whole years of undergrad, and just furthering my knowledge in the realm of cybersecurity in the policy space, because that's where my track in the program is. When I got back from my maternity leave, which was 3 weeks before the pandemic lockdown in 2020, I found a role that is aligned with my career goal and that I intend to grow my cyber career. I took a role in information security engineering at a state government, worked in conducting security assessments, scanning of applications to identify application security flaw, ensuring that vulnerabilities are remediated and risks are documented. So I was able to translate my knowledge working in IT audit role, with the knowledge of NIST cybersecurity framework, all of my security studies, which I haven't necessarily put to use in my IT audit role. And I took all of that to make them aligned when I am interviewing with the information security engineering role. Actually, CISA certification, which is the Certified Information Systems Auditor Cert, was one of the recommended certifications into that information security engineering role. I also started to see how CISA being used as CISP or CISA certification. So that sort of gave me that boost to apply for that position. The other piece that also helped me was with my transition was I was familiar with a site called cybersec.org. Again, strategic move. That interactive site, cybersec.org. That interactive site shows how from a feeder role, any role such as, it could be IT support role or software development, how you can position yourself to be in an entry to mid-level or advanced roles in cybersecurity. It helps you see, where you can potentially make your next moves. I already know about that site, and I already know that, IT auditor is within that realm of entry-level cybersecurity career route. Just looking at that side, I think it would really help me in planning and planning my next roles. And I really encourage you to take a look at that side if you're not familiar with. And I mentioned earlier, how I utilized the certs, which also helped me, to negotiate salary. 6 months into that same role, which is the information security engineering role at the state government, I interviewed and got promoted within the same team for a senior role. Again, I had that experience added under my belt, so which gives me, the confidence to step ahead and see if that opportunity is for me. So I mentioned salary negotiation. As a matter of fact, I always negotiate. I did that even for my first role. And I'll say these two things at this juncture. Number one, always know your worth and ask for more. Of course, back it up why you say you deserve to get paid more, highlighting, what value and skills you are bringing to the role. It could be certs, it could be years of experience, or it could be, the education that you're pursuing, right? And I ask more even, for my first role, as I mentioned earlier, can be intimidating, right? Because I knew about the gender pay gap that exists for women, especially Black women. And we all know it doesn't make sense. I never really understood the idea why it makes sense, or it's okay for women who make so much sacrifices to be in workplaces would be okay to be paid less, but that's another conversation for another time. So I always ask for more, and I have been successful multiple times. I have always seen it as something bigger than ourselves or myself, and bigger than the money itself, right? But we need to understand how we can individually influence to set good precedents for the upcoming professionals. And the other piece is it's also important to understand the fact that you do learn a lot more on the job, right? Don't assume that you have to meet each and every job requirement, that you have to know everything before you apply for that job. I mean, I do that. I have self-eliminated from a lot of opportunities, saying, oh, I meet all of the 9 requirements, but I don't meet the 10th one, so I'm not qualified. But really, all you have to do is demonstrate that you are open to learning, or another tool instead of XYZ tool, because some of the job descriptions ask you for specific tool knowledge, and you can say, I know how to do this, so I'm open to learning to do that too, or to learning about specific tool. So 2020 pandemic happened. We're almost at 2022. So started to hear, more about the cloud and cloud security as a huge next thing, right? Maybe I'm super late to the party myself, but that was when I started to hear more about the cloud and cloud security. Maybe the pandemic highlighted it's important, as more entities are exploring and moving to the cloud. I don't know, but that's when I started to hear more about it. So I started to do what I do best, is venture on learning more, tuning in more relevant podcasts, webinars, connecting with industry experts on LinkedIn. Made my first mentor virtually. You met him in the beginning, AJ. So took my first AWS Cloud Practitioner cert end of 2020, followed with CCSK from Cloud Security Alliance, as well as SANS, Cloud Security Essentials, and KCNA at the end of last year. Mid 2021, me doing my learning and minding my business, not looking for new opportunities. I started getting asked for cloud security roles. At that point, I was making career progress, so I wasn't really looking for new opportunities. And mostly has to do with, I'll admit this, whoa, I'm not ready for that yet, not yet. Although I was prepping myself through, my certifications and learnings. I consulted this with my mentor, can't stress enough, the importance of having a mentor, which I didn't have, up until mid 2020. That isn't, a concept that I wasn't familiar with. That idea was never something that I'm familiar with, not in Ethiopia, not after I moved here, until mid 2020, So my mentor, I'm really blessed to have him as my mentor, and he encouraged me to pursue, and he encouraged me pursue it, at least interview and see if I'm ready, and which I did, and I was scared to do it, but do it scared anyway, So long story short, I joined Best Buy late 2021. I think it's been 6 months, new to the role still as an associate cloud security engineer, which I'm really glad I did. Defining and enforcing what secure looks like in the cloud, working on cloud migration from data center to the cloud from security perspective. Like I mentioned, 6 months into the role, and I'm still learning, bookmarking stuff, Googling stuff, etc. The lesson here is, make sure that, the certs, you've seen a lot of certifications within a short amount of time that I was able to pursue, but make sure that the certs that you pursue really serve you, and make sure that they align with your career goal. Make sure that you see the certifications helping you make that progress, because they do take a lot of commitment and time. I had to take away, the time I had to allocate for my kids to study for those certifications. So I have to strategically plan, what do I do with these certifications before I take it? So the goal should be to learn, and the certification should be the end result. And certifications, do help with focusing on one thing at a time instead of doing a bunch of things, which will, make you distracted from achieving anything at all. What else? 2021, I thought myself, how to publish a book that I mentioned in the beginning of my talk, my first children's book, and became an Amazon bestseller, and second book last month, which I mentioned in the introduction. Recap time it is. Okay, I'll try to quickly recap before wrapping up. The fact that I'm a continuous learner has served me well, and that's something that we, regularly hear being important in this field, on top of, having passion for security. It's important to, continuously adapt and evolve. The other piece is networking, network and share your journey, studies, successes and failures. It's important for people to see, there is a challenge and sacrifices that goes into the background behind, every success. We don't tend to do that, as a community, including myself. Generally, we as a collective aren't, very good at including myself about, sharing our failures and challenges. But I am learning. Find your tribe. There are a lot of organizations providing, safe spaces to help, professionals grow their career, that are on different levels. I am, aware of organizations such as, Empower Cybersecurity, Black Girls in Cyber, or WISIS, Black Girls Hack, etc. Like tap into them as part of your career growth journey. Not only, in terms of getting the skills and finding that direction, but just finding a community or finding that confidence. Find your tribe. Any goals, and I mentioned on the third plate, start today, not tomorrow. That is for any goal. You might be, you might have, be it a cert, going back to school. You might have a goal already, looking for, your next dream job, etc. Do something today, do something about it today, to take that next step in your goal, because we all know procrastination is the thief of time, and the right time to change and make your goals happen is always today, no matter how small action that you chose to take today. And don't let circumstances and temporary challenges define your destiny. I talked about that earlier, with my all of the challenges that I had transitioning and learning new things and navigating. And again, in any endeavor or goal, consistency is very vital, even if small. Consistent actions are the ones that yield a successful, long-lasting impact and results. So it's just the small things that are consistent, that are capable of bringing about, huge outcomes. It's also important to protect your mental health, during this journey. And I know there is a really good talk coming up later today by the amazing Tia Hopkins and AJ On, aka my mentor, and a huge advocate and someone very, vocal about, normalizing conversations on mental health, on realistic purview of, life in cybersecurity, including, the emotional demands and the importance of looking after your mental health. I'm looking forward to that. All right, so last one. Thank you all for tuning in and for choosing to be here when you can be anywhere else. Hope you learned something from my journey. I appreciate you, and I appreciate you, Sans, and I appreciate you all once again. Stay tuned for the rest of the amazing experts share and lineup. It's going to be another awesome day of learning and inspiration. And let's connect. If you have any questions, connect with me on a Slack channel in the hallways here, or on LinkedIn or Twitter. I'll also try to drop my handles in the hallways or chat or Slack. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, AJ. Take it away.